Hey everyone, RogueGold here. Welcome back to the Division 2. Happy Friday, everybody. We are ending off what has been an insane week within the world of the Division. I know I might be beating a dead horse at this point, but if you happen to miss out on the crazy news at the beginning of the week regarding the reveal of the future roadmap, including crossplay, a new incursion, a new DLC, and so much more, be sure to check that out. I'll have a video linked in the description. But that's just it, right? Between the roadmap reveal, everything that dropped in-game this week, it has been impossible to try and keep up with everything in the Division news cycle, if you will. So today I just wanted to step back from the chaos and provide a quick rundown of 4 important news bits and stories that have come out this week amidst all of the noise. That includes the release of some additional 10th anniversary media, which finally references the Division 3, teases for the next season, which is going to start in April, some additional clarity on crossplay, and more. So there's a bunch. Let's get straight to it. If you enjoyed this one and you don't want to miss out on anything coming up from me for the Division, then be sure to subscribe. A huge shout out and thank you to our channel members. As always, it is your support that keeps me going making these videos. Can't thank you enough for that. Without further ado, however, let's dive in. Okay, so the first story that I want to cover is the release of a new mini documentary that was put out online yesterday. This was actually teased in that big 10th anniversary stream. You may recall they played like the first 30 seconds of it. Well, the full thing is now here. It is over on Massive Entertainment's YouTube channel. It will be the first link down in the description, and I cannot recommend enough that you all check this out. It covers the complete story and timeline of how the Division idea began, goes all the way up until now, and talks about what's to come. In doing so, however, it features some familiar and legendary faces from the game's past. Terry Spear, amongst others, makes a cameo. That genuinely almost brought a tear to my eye. I miss that guy being involved with Division stuff so much. It also gives us a brief glimpse at the Division's original prototype gameplay from like the 2010 era. I don't think that has ever been viewable online before. But then additionally, we get a few tiny new details on Division 3 development, which is what I wanted to make sure I covered here in case you don't end up going to watch this. Notably, we get confirmation on who the Division 3's creative and game directors are. Now, there have been rumors, some LinkedIn status speculation that I'm sure we talked about in videos before, but now we know definitively. Now, serving as the Division 3's creative director, we have Matthias Carlson. Now, he has been around since the very beginning days of Massive working on the Division 1. He tells stories from that era in this video. As far as I can recall, his title on the Division 1 was lead gameplay designer. He then moved up to being the game director on the Division 2, working right alongside Julian Garrity. But now he is back on the Division franchise working as the creative director for the Division 3. Now, as far as the game director role, which for any who don't know is essentially the second in command of the project, the one that helps execute on the creative director's vision and coordinates between all of the different teams and disciplines, well, as it turns out, we've actually interacted with this individual within the community in more recent times, but we didn't know it then. This is Matthew Delisle. You may recall that he cameoed back on December's Survive Fest dev stream. He filled in for Magnus when he was out sick that day. His tag on that stream just said game director, but gave no indication of a clear project. Well, we now know that that is the Division 3. This guy has also been involved with Massive and the Division for many years. Most notably, he seemed to have been integral to the ideation, creation, and development of the original survival mode. So, while I of course do not know these gentlemen personally, and we have interacted with them far less as a community than past figures like Julian Garrity or others, it really does seem like they have a capable and smart duo paired here to lead the Division 3. We'll wait and see what they cook up, but I've got a lot of faith. So that is all as far as the Division 3 is concerned. Again, small stuff. But even if not for that information, just for the sake of celebrating this major milestone, please do go and check out that documentary that they released. It's quite special. Alright, next up on the list, I wanted to then discuss a fresh teaser that we received for Year 8 Season 1, which is the next major update for the Division 2 that is on its way in just about a month. Now, you may recall from the 10th anniversary presentation that while major features and content for the upcoming year were revealed, we didn't get much of a timeline laid out as for when each thing will release. And that extends to Year 8 Season 1, which is the soonest approaching update. They confirmed that its name is going to be Rise Up, but they didn't clarify what kind of improvements and content that it'll contain. Now, they did go a bit more in-depth during the post-show, in which we learned that the season will narratively center around the Black Tusk, and because of that, we will finally be getting Black Tusk retaliations, which I can't wait to dive into. On top of that, Yana confirmed that we seem to finally be set to get that increased endgame challenge or difficulty layer that we've been waiting for. That that has been getting teased for quite some time, but apparently it's right around the corner. He also mentions that to handle the increased challenge, we would be receiving new outlets of power as players, and that might be backed up by a subsequent tweet that was released by the game back on Wednesday. It says, "Suit up, agents. Year 8 Season 1 Rise Up drops in April with revamped gear, weapons, and new features, but that's not all. This anniversary year is packed with content, challenges, and new ways to play. Get ready for what's ahead." So, a couple of notable details there. For one, we get the confirmation that this is coming next month in April. So essentially, we are getting back-to-back major updates, which is awesome. This current anniversary season is set to run until April 2nd, so that should be the date as for when Year 8 Season 1 will begin. But the message also specifies that this update will bring us revamped gear. Very curious to find out what that's going to be. Could that be tied to the power enhancements that have been teased? Something different entirely? There's honestly a lot that is still being kept close to the vest despite how soon this update is approaching, but I can't wait to find out more. And that wait shouldn't be too long, especially since a PTS for this update is seemingly likely. Alright, next up, we then need to briefly highlight the insane player counts that all of this week's news has drawn in. Now, before I show you this, you need to know two very important disclaimers. For one, major Division franchise sales have been hitting the platform storefronts, and that is very likely driving player numbers beyond what they might otherwise be hitting just from the content and announcements alone. And then two, as I always have to remind people, Steam numbers, which we're going to be looking at in relation to the Division 2 specifically, can be misleading. The reason being is that the game only released on Steam 4 years after its launch, meaning that while some PC players may have bought the game again and now play from there, the majority of the PC audience plays via Ubisoft Connect, and that does not get included within this statistic. So, that all being said, following this week's news, the anniversary update release, and everything else, The Division 2 hit its all-time highest player counts on Steam. This picture was taken from yesterday, where you can see that it had just peaked at over 16,600, though I will say, as I'm sitting down now to record this video, the numbers are climbing above 16,000 once again, so there may be a new peak inbound from today. But to underscore the significance of this is more people than we had playing when the Battle for Brooklyn DLC released last year. Again, at least on Steam. I would say generally player trends on one platform are roughly representative of player bases on another, so we have to assume that engagement is up across the board right now. And if you go by the official numbers that we got from the Brooklyn launch, which we know saw the game hitting over 500,000 daily active users in total, the Steam numbers from that point in time reflect roughly 2 to 3% of that. So if you extrapolate, and do note this is a very rough estimate and likely not 100% accurate, but if you assume that Steam then accounts for, let's even say 5% of the total Division 2 player base, then that could suggest that we are seeing total game player numbers slowly climbing towards that 1 million count right now. Wild, right? Keep in mind, that is total speculation. It is likely not completely accurate, but the important thing to take away from here is that activity is booming for the Division right now off of this week's news. We've struck a very interesting moment right now where some competing looter shooters are having a bit of a downturn in slower times in terms of content rollout, so I'm sure that is a contributing factor. You've also seen some big content creators who normally don't cover Division diving in recently. That has put more eyes on us. So this is currently very much a lightning in a bottle moment. Will it hold? I'm not sure of these levels, but if this is the engagement that we are getting off of a roadmap reveal, imagine what things are going to look like once Year 8 actually arrives, once the incursion drops, once the DLC launches. I truly think that we have some bright times ahead, my friends, and I cannot wait for that next Ubisoft Investors Report to drop. Alright, and then last but not least, we have some small crossplay and PvP updates to go over. Undoubtedly, one of the most impactful announcements from Tuesday was the fact that crossplay is finally coming to the Division 2 in Year 8 after endless requests. And while many are excited, this did also raise some concern, particularly from the console and PvP crowds, as historically, introducing crossplay can negatively impact those areas due to PC users having better tools and performance at their disposal, as well as the higher rate of cheaters and exploiters that platform brings. I will say it didn't really help that the presentation went into minimal detail on these topics. It just said that crossplay and PvP improvements would come in Year 8 without any specifics. Fortunately, though, we got a tweet from Alex, who is the Division 2's game director, that hopefully will put some people at ease. He was responding to somebody who shares similar concerns for how this will impact cheating rates on other platforms, and he said, yes, you will be able to turn it off if you wish. wish. Also, we recently hired a lead PvP game designer, and he is working on the balancing of PvP, as well as enhancing our tools against cheaters. So, on the one hand, it is great to have the confirmation that crossplay is going to be able to be disabled if you do not want it. That should help protect some of the console audience in those cases. But as a little bonus, we then get a PvP update, including the confirmation that the lead PvP game designer, which is a hiring and position that we have discussed in a number of past videos, has finally been filled, and that person is currently working on balancing updates and anti-cheat tool improvements. So, between crossplay and PvP, those were two areas that got minimal details as to the plans for them back on Tuesday, so I really hope that this helps provide some clarification and reassurance. I, for one, cannot wait to see those balance patches start to roll out. Well, there you have it, everybody. That is all of the news to recap for today. You're now all caught up on all things Division, and you can head back in-game to grind the Anniversary Pass or die to fire yet again in realism mode. Don't ask, it's a sensitive subject for me. I hope you all enjoyed and found this video informative. Again, I just wanted to take the time to spotlight some of these things, as there has been so much happening this week, it's easy to miss it. At this point, I would love to get any and all thoughts that you may have about these stories. What are your predictions for Year 8 Season 1 given the teases that we've received so far? What do you think about the game hitting peak player counts, at least on Steam? Do you think that is carrying over to all other platforms as well? And a final reminder, go and watch that documentary. Seriously, it's worth it. But that is just about everything that I've got for today, folks. Thank you so much for coming by and watching, but until I see you next, RogueGold. Ow. Oh! We just got a Ravenous! Haha! I might not be friendly. Let's go.
Coming to the Division 2.
Let's go!
And